Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to Tarot Tuesday, even though tonight's going to be a little different. Um, I got some very bad news yesterday, which we knew was coming. We knew it was coming. My maternal grandmother passed away. Hold on, let me turn this off. And I spent a lot of time with her, and I am processing her no longer with us, right? Um, and I thought I'd like for you guys to get to know her a little bit more tonight. She loved to tell stories. And so I thought I might share some stories with you guys if you don't mind. Stories that I am so incredibly lucky to have. I'm going to show you a book that my grandmother spent 30 years of her life compiling. Um, and to others, this might be nothing, right? This might be nothing. But to me, it's one of my prized possessions. And if there was to ever be an emergency, this needs to be known exactly where it is um, every single moment of the day. So that way I can grab it if I need to. Um, hey, how are you? How are you? Um, this right here, this right here is a binder full of death certificates, marriage certificates, family trees. This book right here is my family genealogy for one side of my family, and she spent 30 years compiling it. Um, in one branch, we can go all the way back to 942 AD. It's kind of cool. I kind of able to see all this. Oh, I love you too. um, so it's kind of cool that we could see all this. And the other cool thing is in this book are family stories. I come from a very long line of storytellers, and my grandmother was amazing enough to be able to write these stories down. So I thought I'd share some. And also, there's some really cool pictures in here of my family um, that date back. They date back. That's all I'm going to say. But I have my pictures of my grandmother that are in here, and they are so. She was a stinking cutie, by the way. Look at that face. Look at that. And that's her about 15. And that was when she was, I think, 7. Yeah. She was so stinking cute. I love it. But I'm going to share the stories tonight, and depending on where we are and depending on my energy level, because I am, like I said, it's not a shock. We knew this was coming, but it's a process to grieve through. It's a process. And oh, I'm drinking something tonight in her honor. My grandmother was a Dr. Pepper fanatic. Like, absolutely had to have a Dr. Pepper in her hand. Like, since I was a teenager, she had to have a Dr. Pepper in her hand. Um, so I'm drinking Diet Dr. Pepper because I really don't need all that sugar. But I am drinking Diet Dr. Pepper in honor of my grandma. All right. So my grandma, by the way, to me, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and my teenage years, I was almost constantly with her. Um, I during my teenage years, hold on, you're about to learn something. If you don't know yet, you're about to learn something completely new that might flabbergast you. My teenage years, I was a Mormon, and my grandma was Mormon. And so we did a lot of going to church together, and I played church ball. So I had volleyball and basketball, and we did, I tried softball, but people were yelling at me and I started to cry. So there's no crying in baseball, and I had to stop. But I did that, and she was over Young Women's, so I was Young Women's president. So I spent a lot of time between, being at church with her and learning from her and all that good stuff. Hey, Chad, what's up? Um, so a lot of my teenage years were spent with her. She had like a small little farm that we were at quite a bit. She had chickens and she had rabbits. She had rabbits for days, like hundreds of rabbits. And yes, they were sold for food. That's what she did. We had a mule at one point. We had a goat, and the goat stank. We had a horse named Rebel, and that was an adequate name for that horse because that horse didn't want to take you anywhere. Didn't like having the saddle on him. Didn't want to be ridden. Nope, nope, not at all. Not having it. She had a nice big vegetable garden. So my grandmother was that quintessential kind of like the way she spoke to you, the cookie baking grandma, right? Like, oh, honey, right? But she was also strong. She could do whatever she put her mind to. And up until about 5 years ago, she was out in yard gardening. She had always loved, loved plants. So the stories I'm going to share with you, though, come from her dad, my great grandpa. And they were interesting stories when I first read them. One of them is my all-time favorite. It's the ghost. So we're gonna read a ghost story. So stay tuned for that. But the first one I wanted to read was called Snake Bite. Um, Now the first one takes place when my great grandpa was like 9 or 10 years old. So this would have been in 1921, 1919, 1921, somewhere around there. Okay. So he was about 9 years old. They always lived out in the country, right? So my great grandpa was snake bit around 9 or 10 years old. He was swinging on a vine close to the house, and when he actually landed on the snake. They weren't sure what kind of snake it was, but the treatment, this is funny because I'm a witch. Um, the treatment was to soak a frog in milk and apply it to the wound. The frog had to be removed every hour or so to be soaked in milk. I don't know how many, they say, I don't know how many frogs were used in this. But that wasn't the first time. He actually got snake bit twice. Hi, Zuvius, how are you? So it wasn't the first time he had been snake bit. The second time he was snake bit, um, my grandpa was a young man and he was out digging pink root, which was probably ginseng. He was bitten by a poisonous snake. He took his pocket knife and cut across the bit area and sucked out the poison, but was too weak to make it home. When night came and he didn't get home, I guess my grandma was so worried she was pacing. It would have been my great grandma. Sorry, was so worried she was pacing the yard and praying. Grandpa and some of the other boys took the hunting dogs with them to go look for him. So my great grandpa took the hunting dogs. They found him propped up against a tree, unable to walk, and they carried him home. And guess what kind of remedy they gave him? The frog remedy. So he had the frog remedy a couple of times. Now, this one I remember by heart, and I love that it's in here. This is called the bear story. All right. So when my family back in the 20s, they weren't rich. They did a lot of like farming for what they had. And because they were farmers, they often wore overalls. But because they were poor, they didn't have a whole lot of clothes to change into. So one of my uncles, he saved up, and when he, got his money from the harvest, he was like, I am buying a new pair of overalls, right? And the overalls that he had already were like, they were patches. You couldn't find denim on them anywhere because they had been patched so many times, right? So it was just this patchwork of overalls. So he got himself a new set of denim overalls. He was so proud. He wore them for a week straight and they had to be washed. So he washed them and he hung them up to dry. Well, that night while they sleep, some neighbors come up and they're like, "Hey, Jim, they've seen bears and they're messing with cattle and all that. So you need to be awake. There's a bear coming in the neighborhood." So he was my Uncle Jim. My Uncle Jim sits up, gets his shotgun, and sits in a rocking chair in front of a window, and he's looking. Hold on. I think I have somebody. Thank you. I didn't know. It was like my husband was at the door, and I didn't want you guys to see him. Okay. Gave me a note. So my Uncle Jim's sitting in the rocking chair with the shotgun, right? And he falls asleep because it's boring, right? He's sitting there. He was already trying to sleep. He's bored. And he goes to sleep in the rocking chair, and he's rocking back and forth, and falls asleep. All of a sudden, he hears big thunder, lightning flash, and when the lightning flashed and it lit up all the yard, all of a sudden, he saw that bear coming at him like this, straight to the window. So he unloaded the shotgun. He unloaded the shotgun into his new overalls. Shot him all full of holes, and he ended up having to have his patchwork overalls because he messed up his brand new ones. Hey, Alan, how are you? I will tell him. I will absolutely tell him hi. Yeah, tonight's a little different, Alan. I'm not doing tarot. I am honoring my grandma's memory by telling some fabulous stories that she told me growing up. I just got done telling the bear story, which was, like I said, one of my favorites. But in this story, in this book right here, I also not only have like little tiny stories like that, but I have stories of like how they wound up in certain areas. What kind of jobs did they have to take because of things, you know? There's a lot of cool information in here. One of the stories, before I get to your ghost story, see if I can find it, is about how my mom got her. Oh, Alan, you're here. Hold on. You would really like this one, Alan. This one is in my genealogy book, and it is about my great-grandmother's cooking. So you'd like this, Alan. So this is told from the perspective of my grandmother. So she's talking about her mom. Mama could take the most simple ingredients and make a dish fit for royalty. Here are a few recipes that I remember as a child. She did baked stuffed potatoes, which, you know, that's kind of, you know, everybody's familiar with that. She also did like cream corn and biscuits. Again, pretty recognizable. But this one was, there's another one, polk salad greens. This is not something you are going to run out and prepare for dinner, but if you ever had hard times, you could. I have a few times just to keep up my skills of country cooking. Pick a large quantity of the young leaves of the polk plant. Only young will do. The stalks and berries are poisonous, so you don't want to eat the stalk or the berry, she said. Wash to clean 2 or 3 times in fresh water. Put in a large pot, boil for 15 minutes. Pour off water and rinse. Cover with fresh water. Boil for another 15 minutes. Pour water off and rinse again. Press out. Put in a hot fry pan with bacon drippings. Cover and cook for about 15 minutes and then season with salt and pepper. She says, and I used hot sauce and would beat an egg and pour over the polk greens. I don't think I could eat those. The fact that it was like, she says the stalk and berry are poisonous, Alan, I would have lost it. I'm like, no, I'm going to poison myself. I'm not going to make this. Thank you very much. But she did that. She had fruit pies, fried pumpkin pie, And then there was in here, oh, I wonder if she's got it in here. There was one that I remember, date cake, where she would take like a box of, this was as she got older, it was after the Depression, but she would take a box of like vanilla cake mix and then a can of like fruit cocktail, and she'd mix them together and cook them. Oh, you want to know the pumpkin one? Okay. This one is young green pumpkin, peel and slice thinly, fry in a small amount of butter and oil, add a fourth of a cup of sugar and cinnamon at the very end of the cooking. And that's what you do. It's just fried pumpkin. I gotta try. That sounds good. Hey, Jared, how are you? I wondered, Alan, I wonder if what they're referring to as pulp greens, if that's the same as dandelion leaves. But dandelion is all edible, so it wouldn't be poisonous. So that wouldn't make any sense. No, never mind. Hey there, Lilith, how are you? I know, it sounds really good. She has something, let's see, what was the other one? Oh, orange slice cake. She would take a pound of orange slice candy, 2 cups of chopped pecans, 1 can of coconut flakes, 1 pound of chopped dates, 2 cups of sugar. Man, this thing is sweet. 3.5 cups plain flour, a half a cup buttermilk, and a teaspoon of baking soda with 4 eggs and 1 cup of butter. And you mix them all together and you put them in. You put it in a bundt cake, like a bundt cake pan. That's it. We were up north Pittsburgh. But I think dandelion is one of those things that, now I know we have here in Florida the fake dandelion, so I don't know if you can eat that. I haven't really studied it, but I know dandelion seems to be pretty much prevalent all over the place, and each place has some type of way of consuming it. That's what I thought. Yes, Chad, tonight's just going to be a little chit chat stream because my energy just isn't in tarot tonight. That's it. My energy just isn't in tarot tonight, and I wanted to kind of talk about my grandma's work since she just passed. So that's what I'm doing. All right. One of the things that's in here, let's see if I pull this out. And I remember this. Now, my grandma's house had running water and all that good jazz, right? But her mom's house, my great grandma, when I was little, we would go, and I remember this. There was a pump that was in the front of my great grandmother's house, and it was for water. You would go and pump water. My grandma, this is all she knew for the longest time was pump water. So I was like, so she's got in here tips and tricks for pump water, like how do you wash dishes, bath time, how do you bathe only having to pump your water. She says in here though, okay, I got to talk about bath time. Bath time was another big chore. We had a number 3 wash tub that was used for a bathtub. The water was pumped from a pump or drawn from a well, heated on a wood-burning stove, and then poured into the tub. Quite a process, needless to say. We did not get daily baths. You have heard of Saturday night baths? That was a reality when I was a child, and you never dumped the water after the first bath was finished. She goes, it was a family bath water. The water was for wetting the body. The soap and washcloth did the work. A splash of water to rinse the soap and a towel to finish it off. Head washing was not a daily or even weekly thing. It was something else that was done near the water source on a warm day. So my grandma did not grow up like taking like regular baths. She had pump water. That's just what's up. No. Chad, she not my mom. My mom did not pass. My grandmother passed. My mom's mom. All right. And so, yeah, it's kind of. Here's the poem that she wrote about her mom when her mom passed away. So my grandmother wrote this about my great grandma. She says, "My mother's apron and bonnet. If you could have known my mother as I knew her, with her apron and bonnet on, with breakfast over, dishes washed, and beds made, it was time to start her day. With her apron and bonnet on. With days too long and nights too short, she worked with a prayer in her heart and a song on her lips, with her apron and bonnet on. There was always time to talk while we worked the garden, shelled the peas, or fed the chickens, with our aprons and bonnets on. Mother was my best friend. From my very first memory until I was 16, my greatest desire was to be like my mom, with her apron and bonnet on. Her words were like honey to a hungry little child. Oh, to be loved by this great lady with our aprons and bonnets on. The best part of the day came at bedtime, when I knelt by her bed to unburden my heart and mind. Together we prayed to our Father in heaven with our aprons and bonnets off." Oh, my heart. Lilith, she was 80. Yeah, she's 80. Let's see. She was 36 when I was born. So yeah, she was 80. Which is another story altogether. When I was born 3 months after my aunt. So my grandmother and my mom were pregnant at the same time. I have an aunt that is my age. Woo woo! All right, Chad. I am very excited. That is awesome. What you going to be doing over there? You'll be running security, right? Oh my goodness. This book, oh my. Oh, she has in here, let's see if I can find it. She has in here where like my family tree starts. So she legitimately made a whole tree for me that didn't go through my dad's side of the family, but obviously went through my mom's side of the family. So I know a lot about my mom's side of the family. There, obviously, I've got stories upon stories upon stories in here. The ghost story. Let me tell you the ghost story. Let me find that one again, because that one, we'll get to the ghost story. Hold on. Find that one for you. There we go. All right. Again, this is written by my grandmother. All right. So when she references dad, it is my great-grandfather. All right. When Dad was young, people made their own good times and fun. They would get together, sometimes 10, 20 young people, and walk to other friends' homes to play card games. There were very few cars in those days, and they certainly weren't meant for the entertainment of young people. Hence, the youth walked wherever they needed to go. On this night, the group was having fun, just walking and talking down the dirt road. When the girls in front began screaming, running, and pushing past them, shoving the boys down to the ground, they were all terrified. When the bigger boys finally got up to where they all were, the story out of them was that there was a ghost up the road. It came swooping down on them, making the loudest noise they ever heard. They were too scared to go on. Since they had to go past this spot to get to the house, the boys decided they were big and brave enough, and they would take care of anything that came their way. The bigger boys, braver boys, 2 or 3 of them, got big sticks and clubs, and started up the road to the spot where the girls said they saw that ghost. When they got there, again, these things came swooping out of the sky, down over them, honking and hissing, scratching at them, biting at them. The brave young men started to swing their sticks and clubs. When it was over, 3 or 4 big white geese lay on the ground dead. The boys had to go and explain to the farmer why they had just killed his prize geese. I was like, and this is the people I come from, ladies and gentlemen. So when I do stupid things, understand it's genetic. All right? It's genetic. Oh my goodness. Let's see. The hitchhiking story. Let's see. If you guys hear a title that you're like, ooh, what was that one? Gold Dust. Ducks, Ducks, Ducks. School. Down the Snake Bite. The First Airplane. The first car that my great grandpa ever saw. That's in here. So there's a thing, and let me see if I can find a picture of my great grandpa. Yeah, here it is. So I'm going to show you a picture of my great grandpa, and this was something that's in the book, and it is still like, I don't have answers. I don't know if somebody has a definitive answer. It's like a family mystery. I'm going to be honest with you, all right? It's going to sound weird, but I'm going to show you my great grandpa, okay? My great grandpa, and that's my great grandma, by the way. My great grandpa, you see his nose? It looks like it's been smushed in, right? Nobody else's nose was like that in the family. So that's not like a genetic thing. Like he wasn't born that way. So we asked, like, what happened? And there are all kinds of stories that have been told in my family about why my grandpa's nose looked like that. So here is the story. His most notable facial feature was a broken nose. This is the story that my grandma got told, but there are 2 versions of this story, okay? It happened when he was a baby in 1912 or 1913. And there, like I said, there are 2 stories. Story one of his sisters dropped him on the floor, which broke his nose. All right. Story number 2 is he fell off the porch and broke his nose. He had some breathing difficulties because of it. And he often said it caused him problems growing up because he'd get into fights. People would make fun of the way he looked. And so he'd get mad and he'd go and people would threaten to make his nose flatter for him. So he'd get mad and he'd get into a fight. But yeah, that's guys, I'm going to miss my grandmother very, very much. And I can't tell you, looking through this tonight, how incredibly thankful I am that she put this together for me. There are so many things that would have been lost. So many things that would have been lost. And she made sure that none of us lost them. We know where we came from. We have pictures of these people. We have documents that they signed, right? We have stories that they told. One of the things that my grandmother really, really impressed upon me, and the reason why she put it in binders and not an actual book, was because we were to add to it. We were to add our own stories. We were to add our own pictures, add our parts of the family tree, the children that we've had and the children they have. She wanted us to add to it. And I think that's a pretty awesome legacy for her, is to make sure that we are always telling our stories and keeping our memories. and letting everybody know, you know, this is who we were. This is how we learned. We became better people because of all these trials and tribulations and because of all these good times. And I absolutely adore this. I absolutely adore this. I also have one of my other favorite things that my grandmother did not give me, but she would love the fact that it was in here. I have these pressed flowers. And you see how it's got like this little thing right there? It was one of the first Mother's Day gifts that my husband ever gave to me. He bought a dozen roses and he gave each one of our kids, we've got 5 kids, he gave each one of our kids a rose, and he tagged the roses that he gave them with a characteristic that that child had, and then the characteristic in me that made me the best mom for them. So what was the characteristic in me that made them a good mom to that child? And they came in one by one, handing me these roses, and then the last 2 roses he gave to me, and it was the qualities that he loved most in me as a mom. So, of course, I kept that. I now work with resin, and I realize I can put these in resin. Chad, I don't know yet, but they have spots open. So my body gets... Yeah. Thank you, Chad. Thank you. I think she would be giggling to find out that some of her stories have been told on the internet. She'd like that. One of the things that she liked, that she said she was proud of me for, the very first time I ever acted on stage. And she thought that was the coolest thing. Like that was my gift. That was what I was good at. That was my talent. And it always, she just got the biggest kick out of seeing me, or I have a daughter that is also an actress. Anytime she got to see us on stage, she used to love that stuff. She absolutely loved that. But she was a good woman, a very good woman. She taught me how to sew. She taught me how to cook. I learned how to fend off roosters by gathering eggs. I learned how to fend off roosters. She taught me how to dribble a ball, how to spike a ball, the rules of a game. The biggest thing I remember her always telling me is that when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And to make sure that I always had a plan. And you know, she always made you feel special. At least she did me. She always made me feel special. And like I was worthy of her time. And that was what was cool. That I always knew that she loved me. I know that she knew I loved her. I know she did. So, well, my lovelies, I'm going to call it a night. All right. I appreciate you hanging out with me and allowing me to share a bit of my grandmother's legacy with you. I have so many ideas for this now. Whether I should bind it all together and put it in an actual book. I've got pages that are kind of getting ripped and torn, and I don't want them to. So if you got ideas on how I can preserve this book, you let me know. All right. Thank you, Lilith. Chad, you're right. For good times. Real good times. Night, Alan. Night, Kim. I love you both. We have to get together very, 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 very soon, because Derek and I miss you guys quite a bit. Zuvios, thank you very much for joining me. I know it's not my normal content. Next week we'll go back to tarot, but I appreciate you all hanging out with me. Aw, thanks, Chad. I hope that I make her proud, and I hope you've enjoyed the stories that she told me. All right. So, my lovelies, be happy, be safe. Tell those that you love them. Because we're not here forever. And I love you all. I'm very thankful to have you all as a community. And I appreciate your support and your love. Know that I love you. Have a good one.